Can Big Hat Byron continue his playoff dominance? Can MTJ finally stop the bleeding? Can Ryan Blaney pull off the upset? Here's who I got making the championship 4. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Happy Friday. The round of 8 is here. Bush, Bubba were among those just eliminated, while big names like Bell, Byron, Busher, and Blaney are still doing battle. Wow, a lot of B names. I'm kind of proud of my alliteration skills right there. Today, we're taking a hard look at the remaining round of 8 contenders. We'll analyze these 3 tracks in this round, and I'm going to give y'all my updated Championship 4 prediction. Let's take a look at the points now that they've reset once again. William Byron back on top, regular season champ Martin Truex Jr. right there with him, while drivers like Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell find themselves on the wrong end of the cut line. This round consists of 3 tracks: 2 mile-and-a-halfs, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Homestead Miami Speedway, and then the Paperclip, the shortest points-paying racetrack on the circuit, Martinsville Speedway. Remember not that long ago when it felt like every track on the circuit was a mile-and-a-half? Like every other week we were racing on a different cookie cutter? This season, there have only been 5 traditional mile-and-a-half races. The first Las Vegas, 2 Kansas races, the Coke 600, and recently Texas. Atlanta is not a traditional mile-and-a-half anymore. This round, though, with the second Vegas race, and Homestead Miami has 2 traditional mile-and-a-halfs. I went back and calculated the average finish for each playoff driver at those traditional mile-and-a-halfs this year, and here's how they stack up. William Byron, far and away the best average finish at traditional intermediates this season. I was a little surprised to see Chris Buescher's name on the bottom. He did win at Michigan over the summer. That's a 2-mile intermediate, similar in some ways to Vegas, Homestead, but not a mile-and-a-half. His mile-and-a-half results were lackluster this year. That did surprise me. Average finish, of course, doesn't tell the full story, and many of those mile-and-a-half races took part in the early stages of the season. Each of these teams has improved or changed dramatically since then. So let's take a look at how these drivers have done recently, beginning with playoff average finish, the past 6 races. Again, William Byron at the top of the board. Tyler Reddick, who got a win in the round of 16, second best average finish. That kind of surprised me as well. I thought Kyle Larson would be a bit higher. I mean, he's still in third, but a shaky round of 12 hurt his average finish a bit. At the bottom, though, no surprise, Martin Truex Jr., the regular season champ, still doesn't have a top 15 in these playoffs. And get this, it's already cost him dearly. The regular season champion, Carr, is no longer eligible for the Owners' Championship. That's right, the 19 team has already been eliminated from the playoffs. Martin Truex Jr. is still eligible for the Drivers' Championship, which is what the fans all care about, but what the owners care most about is the Owners' Championship. And the 19 was bounced by the 9 this past week at the Charlotte Roval. So Truex 19 team, they're bleeding. They are injured right now. Can they turn things around? That's what I'll be looking for in this upcoming round. But again, average finish doesn't always tell the full story. Guys run well earlier in the race, may wreck out late, they may earn some stage points, and late in the playoffs, every point matters. Those stage points in stage 1, stage 2, those are a huge deal. So I wanted to calculate each of these playoff drivers' total points earned in these playoffs, and they actually rank up a little differently. William Byron's still on top, of course, but behind him, Reddick and Larson have actually switched because Larson's been better in the stages. Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell have also switched because Hamlin, again, better in the stages. Think back to the first race of the playoffs at Darlington. Hamlin was leading that race, dominating, earning a bunch of stage points, but then had that loose wheel late that cost him. Christopher Bell, to his credit, has been able to finish a lot more of these playoff races, something he struggled to do much of the summer. So while he may not run top 5 all day, he's often in the top 5 or top 10 late. Another unfortunate constant, though, is Martin Truex Jr. way behind his playoff peers in total points earned. Those are just some fun charts, some graphs, some stats I wanted to look at. Now let's break down each remaining playoff driver one at a time. Let's start at the top. William Byron. He's the winningest driver in the Cup Series this year, and we just looked at the stats. Now he's cranked up the consistency. He won at Las Vegas in the spring. I expect him to be one of the favorites this weekend. His worst finish in these playoffs thus far is only 15th. You factor in his 20-point cushion, William Byron is the closest thing you can get to a sure bet. Vegas, Homestead, Martinsville, Byron has won at all 3 of those tracks in the past 2 seasons. I expect him to get to the championship. Things get murkier behind him. Martin Truex Jr., once again, great regular season, taking advantage of it. He's plus 15. All regular season long, Martin Truex Jr. had something to prove. He was out to remind all of us that he is a championship caliber driver, and with James Small, this is a championship caliber race team. I think some people's memory started to get a bit hazy after last year. He went winless, missed the playoffs, had that weird string of mistakes and bad luck towards the end of the year, etc. Truex shot out of a cannon this year. 3 wins, consistency, regular season title. But the last 6 weeks feel a lot like 2022. He's not spinning out from the lead on pit road like he was at the end of last year. Instead, he's getting a flat tire 3 laps in and crashing out. Again, weird mistakes, weird bad luck. It looks a lot like 2022. This team is all out of whack right now. I think they will get at least one top 10 this round, but the question is whether that 15-point cushion is enough. I'm not sure. Next is his teammate Denny Hamlin. This round has 2 mile-and-a-halfs, and Denny Hamlin has been strong at that style of track this year. I showed you this chart. Hamlin's mile-and-a-half average finish is 10.8. If you take out the incident with Chase Elliott at Charlotte in the 600, Hamlin's average finish goes down to 4.75. He's right there with William Byron. Denny Hamlin has been good in these playoffs as well. He had, I believe, the fastest car in the first 3 playoff races. And I think he carried most of that speed into the round of 12. He had 2 more top 5s. The Roval last week was ugly. Spun out in qualifying, spun out twice during the race, finished 37th. I'm going to dismiss the Roval as a fluke, just like I think we should dismiss his result in the Coke 600 as a fluke. Denny Hamlin has been very good at mile-and-a-halfs this year. I expect him to contend for the win each of the next 2 weeks, run top 5. And then there's Martinsville, one of Denny Hamlin's best tracks historically. This round shapes up real nice for DH. Then there's Kyle Larson. We haven't raced at Miami yet this year, but the other 2 tracks, Vegas and Martinsville, Kyle Larson finished 2nd and 1st there earlier this season. Woo-wee, great, because Larson needs something to wash the bad taste of the round of 12 out of his mouth. That round has always been his kryptonite. He finished 31st, 15th, and 13th. Just good enough to advance on points. I'm sure he'll be good this weekend at Las Vegas, but next weekend, oh boy, we're heading to Kyle Larson's Mojo Dojo Casa House, aka Homestead Miami Speedway. Last year he dominated, swept the stages, won the race, max points day. He should be good at Vegas, he should be good at Martinsville, won there earlier this year, but Homestead Miami Speedway, if it ever becomes the championship venue again, I think Larson has at least a shot, a slim chance at reaching the 7 title mark. It's slim, but not impossible. That's how good he is there. We've discussed the heavy hitters. Now I think we got to talk about the dogs, the underdogs. Chris Buescher enters this round -3. If you just look at the results at Las Vegas, Martinsville earlier this season, Chris Buescher wasn't impressive. He finished 21st at Vegas, 14th at Martinsville. That won't be good enough this round. But those races were very early in the season. This team was good early in the year, but they flipped a switch at the start of the summer. They've won 3 races since at a variety of tracks. They've won at a short track, Richmond. They've won at not a mile-and-a-half, but an intermediate in Michigan. I expect Chris Buescher to do well in this round, but is well good enough when guys like Kyle Larson, William Byron, maybe Denny Hamlin can grab that extra gear. RFK has had an amazing comeback season, but I'm still not sure they're consistently at Joe Gibbs Racing or Hendrick Motorsports' level. So they're going to have their work cut out for them this round, but if they can stay smooth and steady, and Hamlin, Larson, has an off week, gets caught up in a crash, Chris Buescher will be right there to take advantage. Next is Tyler Reddick. I like interesting, and I think Tyler Reddick will be very interesting in this round. 23XI is still a new team. Reddick is new to that team. This is their first year together, but I showed you some of those charts earlier. In these playoffs, their average finish is good. Their total number of points scored is good. They've got a win at a mile-and-a-half. Kansas. Overall, 23XI has been really good at mile-and-a-halfs. And Kyle Larson is great at Homestead. Don't discount Tyler Reddick. He's clinched 2 Xfinity Series championships at Homestead Miami. And his first 2 years in Cup, he finished 4th and 2nd there in, I think, less than stellar RCR equipment. I feel very confident saying Tyler Reddick or Kyle Larson is going to win next week at Homestead Miami. Obviously, anything can happen, but those are the 2 favorites. So if Reddick runs top 5 at Miami, all he needs to do is run top 5 at Vegas, top 10 at Martinsville, And even though he's -8, I think that's good enough. Again, go back to this graph. Tyler Reddick has earned the third most number of points of any playoff driver so far this postseason. Keep that up, and he's got a legit shot at making the championship 4. He'll have to go through Christopher Bell, though, who enters this round even with Reddick in the points. Christopher Bell is Mr. October. He just keeps delivering when it matters most. The biggest knock against Bell during much of the summer was that he and that team just didn't finish races. They were spinning out, having issues. They were all out of whack for a big portion of this season. But since these playoffs have begun, Bell, Adam Stevens, they flipped the narrative. Now they're executing, they're finishing. A great example of this was Talladega a couple weeks ago. Bell's not a great super speedway racer, I'd say. Remember, he got damage early on, couldn't really lead any lane, couldn't really even push, yet they persevered, stayed out of trouble, and finished 14th. Every single point matters, especially this late in the season. 2 years in a row now, Christopher Bell is at his best in the playoffs. Even if his back is up against the wall, don't count this guy out. Lastly, and I said Reddick is maybe one of the most interesting drivers, Ryan Blaney is perhaps the most unpredictable of these 8. He's got no time to waste. He's 10 points out. Team Penske has not shown great raw speed this year, but remember, Ryan Blaney did win the Coke 600, a traditional mile and a half. He dominated that race in May. This round's got 2 mile and a halves to lead off. Can he recapture some of that spring mile and a half strength these next 2 weeks? That's what it's going to come down to, I believe. But let me tell you this. His opponents, his enemies, do not want to see Ryan Blaney get to Phoenix. If Ryan Blaney gets through this round, he is dangerous. He may legitimately become the championship favorite. Since the next gen debuted at Phoenix, we've run 3 races. Blaney's results are second, 4th. And he probably wins last year, but he didn't want to push the issue and risk hurting his teammates' championship hopes. I don't know what it is, but Phoenix suits Ryan Blaney. Don't let him through this round. I don't know if they'll race him any differently, but Blaney has been a sleeper all year, has not really looked like a title contender all season. He's this year's Chase Briscoe. Remember last year, Chase Briscoe, statistically speaking, was the weakest of the round of 8, but he'd had that win at Phoenix in the spring. I think everyone figured if he got to Phoenix, Briscoe was going to be a force, potentially the biggest upset in years, maybe ever. Ryan Blaney has that same potential this season. He is this year's Chase Briscoe. And remember last year as well for Chase Briscoe, he was up front late in that Martinsville race. I think they'd played some different strategy to get up there, but he made things interesting down the stretch. I expect Ryan Blaney to make things very interesting, especially these next 2 weeks. Can he bring that Charlotte speed to Vegas, to Homestead? That's the question. But the question you all want me to answer now is who actually gets through? Who are my updated championship 4 picks? 6 weeks ago, my championship 4 was Martin Truex, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin. I know, real original. They're the 4 guys at the top of the grid right now. I get it. I have new information now. We've seen these guys race under pressure for 6 straight weeks, which means now I have a new opinion. Barring an epic collapse or something beyond his control, I think William Byron makes it. I think Kyle Larson makes it as well. Getting through the round of 12, a huge sigh of relief. Now that we're in the round of 8, these tracks suit him greatly. Again, Homestead, he's the clear favorite. I think Larson makes it in. At least one Joe Gibbs Racing. Toyota's going to make it. I actually think Denny Hamlin is a more sure bet right now than Martin Truex Jr., just because Truex has struggled these last 6 weeks to get any momentum going. Hamlin has one of the best average finishes on traditional mile and a halves in the entire Cup Series this season. I like how this round shapes up for him. So that final spot now. Oh, it's tough. Originally, I had Martin Truex Jr., and honestly, that still looks like a good pick. I know he's struggled, but he's plus 15. The guys behind him not only need to beat him, they need to beat him convincingly to make up that number of points. This late in the season, I think you need to have winning speed. We don't really know how fast he would have been at Kansas, but every other race in these playoffs, Truex hasn't even shown top 10 speed. His car's not even eligible for the Owners' Championship at this point. I don't think Martin Truex Jr. advances. Taking his place, Tyler Reddick. 2311 has been really good at mile and a halves this year. If Kyle Larson doesn't win Homestead, it'll be Tyler Reddick. I think he's getting to the championship 4 this year. Look, Denny Hamlin, Michael Jordan, they believed in him. They believed in Tyler Reddick so heavily, they were able to get him away from RCR a year before his contract was up. That's how badly they wanted this guy in their car. I think he's going to make them look like geniuses this round and get that 45 into the championship 4. Tyler Reddick, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson. 2 Toyotas, 2 Chevrolets. That's my updated championship 4 prediction. But let me know what you're thinking down in the comment section below. I'm sure we'll get a variety of responses because these 8 drivers, I think you can make a case, were the 8 best drivers this season. Maybe we're missing Kyle Busch, 3 wins this year, sure. But this is a solid round of 8 field. I don't think it's going to be easy for any one of them. Let me know your predictions down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, y'all. Leave a like if you enjoyed. If you're new to the channel and you love NASCAR, we talk stock car racing every single day. Subscribe down below, and thank you to my Patreon supporters for your very generous support of the show. I will see you all again this weekend after the Las Vegas race Sunday afternoon on NBC. Have a wonderful weekend, folks. I'll talk to you again soon.